Welcome to our board spotlight series. I'm Wesley Liu and I serve on the Youth Advisory Board of the California Association of Youth Courts. Today, I'm joined by Derek Beverly, the interim president of the California Association of Youth Courts. Before I begin, I want to note that the board spotlight series is really a chance to get to know the people behind the California Association of Youth Courts and to understand what drives them and what they do. With that, let's get started. My first question for you, Derek, is this. Where are you from and what is your favorite childhood memory?
Wow, that's a broad question. I was born in Oakland. My father was deputy chief of Oakland Police Department. 1954 is when I was born in Oakland. And around I was 4 or 5 years old, he retired from Oakland PD, and we moved to a town up in the High Sierras. It was his favorite camping area, which was called Sierra City. And that's where I grew up. I graduated from Downeyville High School, a total of 10 in my high school graduating class. And that's to give you the idea of how small the community is that I grew up in. The total population of Sierra County is about, on a good year, maybe 1,600 people. Sierra County is located, just for those of you that aren't familiar with it, if you go to Truckee, California, it's in Nevada County. The next county north of Truckee is Sierra County. It goes, the county seat is Downeyville. The largest town is Loyalton, California. And I grew up here fishing. Skiing was my favorite passion. I spent 34 years teaching skiing in my adult life, but I started skiing when I was about 4 years old and I became a professional skier. That was my love. But however, at the time, when I was 18, I was approached by the sheriff, the local sheriff, and he asked me if the summer before I'd worked for the Forest Service as a firefighter. And the next summer he said, what do you think about joining the sheriff's office? And my only question was, does it pay more? And it did, substantially more. So I ended up becoming the youngest deputy in California history at the age of 18. I went through the academy and graduated with my bachelor's degree from California State University, Sacramento. And from there, I went on to Placer County Sheriff's Office. And the short version is the state of California. I worked as a chief investigator in the Health and Welfare Agency and over to DMV as a commander at Department of Motor Vehicles and developed some skill sets that were attractive to the FBI. And so my last 9 years is with the FBI. The second part of your question was my favorite childhood memory was probably being with my parents fishing. We have 52 lakes up here, trout lakes, and I grew up fly fishing. I grew up trout fishing in the lakes. I had motorcycles, so I loved to ride dirt bikes all over the mountains and hike and do things of that nature. But living in the Sierras is definitely an opportunity that was golden to me. I learned to shovel lots of snow. I learned to split lots of firewood, but it's a wonderful place to live. And we still have the family house here in Sierra City, California. And as you can see, I'm talking to you off the back deck of the house.
Wow, absolutely. It seems amazing. And I'm glad that you are here with the California Association of Youth Courts. My second question for you today is, how did you end up working in juvenile justice?
Well, my career in law enforcement ended up being 42 years in law enforcement, in the law enforcement arena. As I mentioned, I started out with the Sheriff's Department. I obviously was involved with a lot of juvenile delinquents. There were kids that I arrested. There were kids that I tried to mentor. I mentioned that I graduated from Sacramento State University in their criminal justice department. Later became one of the counselors and for their internship program. I was a coordinator for California State University, Sacramento, their internship program. So that's when I really got involved with helping young people, mentoring them into their careers in the law enforcement arena, whether it was corrections, traditional law enforcement, federal, state, local law enforcement. But, when I was a young deputy, it wasn't uncommon for me to ask a kid that I just arrested for burglary or some offense, shoplifting, why did you do that? Why did you do that? 99% of the time, it was, I don't know. And I've since learned through California Association of Youth Courts and talking with Dr. Kaufman that it's a fundamental development of the brain. A lot of times youths, they're at certain years, their brain isn't fully developed and they really, truly do not know why they do certain things. Some of them are pretty dumb. I almost shot a young kid one time. Went up to a cabin, the alarm was going off. It was a silent alarm. I walked around the house, boarded up, and this was up at Lake Tahoe. And I thought I saw movement in between the slats in the window inside the place. And I thought, no, I must be hearing or seeing things. As I walked around the house, I heard a thump and some other noise. I thought I'm hearing things. And, you know, you go to a whole bunch of these silent alarm calls, and 99% of them are nothing. So your guard is down. When I walked around the back of the house, here was a young man, a teenager, backing out of the back door, and he had an armload of stuff, including a shotgun. And when I said, don't move, sheriff's office, he spun around, and I already had my gun drawn, and it would have been very easily for me to, because of the shotgun, if he'd lowered that shotgun, he wouldn't be here today. I got him in the patrol car, and I asked him, why did you do that? I don't know. It was a challenge for him. And so through my career in law enforcement, I dealt with a lot of kids, all the way up to college students. So I can't remember any one specific time. There were a lot of, I met a lot of great kids. I was a part of my career was with the DARE program and drug education. I forget what DARE stands for, but anyhow, you know, a lot of friends of mine, probation officers. My dad was, as I said, retired up to Sierra County, and he later became the chief probation officer up here. So anyhow, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. My third question is, what drives you to do what you do?
I really enjoy. Let me back up for a second. I mentioned being the coordinator of the internship program. In law enforcement, we don't have the opportunity to really, like a contractor or a builder, to say, oh, we built that building and we put it in that freeway, or we don't, you know, we deal with things and hopefully it ends up in a peaceful resolution. And so you really don't have an opportunity to see the end result of the things, people that you integrate with. You don't see them again, hopefully. They don't run across your path, although sometimes that does happen. But the criminal justice students that I had that I interned, probably over 300 of them in my years. And I called them my seeds. And to this day, those seeds, some of them are, I have one individual who named his son after me. He's a captain with Highway Patrol, probably soon to be a chief. I have a young lady who was a student intern that spoke 3 Asian languages, and she had trouble getting on board in law enforcement. She was a woman, spoke great 3 languages, and she's now a district supervisor for the, as a parole agent manager. She manages parole agents in different districts in Sacramento. I have another gal who is the spokesperson for Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Federal Agency. I have students that are FBI agents, federal agents, Secret Service agents, and those are my seeds. And I still stay in touch with them to this day. And when I was working in law enforcement, if I ever needed something, I would go to those people and say, "Hey, remember me?" And they would help me out. So that's kind of a long answer to a short question. That's, you know, how did I get involved? It started at a very young age. I was 18. I mean, I couldn't go in supposedly to do bar checks, for example, because I wasn't 21. Well, they had to get an attorney general's opinion. And the opinion was, if I was in uniform, I was there to enforce the law, not to consume alcohol. So I could go in and do bar checks at 19, 20, 21, you know, so anyhow, very young career.
Yeah, it seems like ideas like supporting youth, inspiring youth, and community are really important ideas to you and your personal identity. Which brings me to my fourth question of, what do you envision the future of juvenile justice to be like, both in the context of California and also
Right.
in the context of America and the world?
Okay. Well, I mentioned earlier about Dr. Kaufman and the childhood, the development of childhood brain, and the fact that I would ask kids, why did you do that? They don't know. I think a lot of adolescent behavior on the negative side of things is the answer is they don't know. A lot of it is maybe poor parenting, where there are no parents. Their parents are in jail or not capable of raising a child. A lot of children are raised by their grandparents, and a lot of youth are misdirected. I would like to see, instead of punishment, as we call it, the school to prison pipeline, that needs to go away. In California, we've already shut down the juvenile justice California Youth Authority that's no longer in existence. And now everything is remanded back to the local counties to address. I would like to see the counties, and I think a lot of them are on board with restorative justice. Maybe transformational justice is another buzzword that we call it, where we look at maybe the history of the family and what the family setting is, and go much deeper, as opposed to the traditional juvenile justice system of a kid going before a court, being prosecuted by a district attorney, having an attorney, getting rid of that system. Instead of that, having advocates, youth advocates, and that's where the California Youth Authority and teen courts come involved. And that is that children nowadays have an option of going that direction and receiving more of a restorative, transformational justice than going through the traditional justice system, because statistics show that the recidivism rate in the traditional juvenile justice system is anywhere from 34 to 37%. In our program, it's 4 to 7%. So the repeat offenders, whatever it is, however it's happening, the system is being transformed. Now we have youth courts around California, all over the United States. We have them in the world. You and I were at a conference and we met a lady from, I think, Switzerland, and she was very interested in youth courts in her country. I don't think they had them, or they had something similar. I'm affiliated with the state of Nevada, and the state of Nevada does not have teen courts, youth courts. They might have some version of something like that, but it's not established and coagulated like we are in California. So what I envision is there's a new state agency, the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. And the director, her name is Kathleen Lucero. And I would really like to see California Association of Youth Courts be not only supported by them, but work with them so that they can establish either a section, a branch, or a division to develop standards and training for youth courts. So all youth courts operate under the same umbrella with the same requirements, the same regulations. Right now, we're all across the board. It's hard to determine what statistics we have to show the success or failure of our organization. We have a feeling, and we have some jurisdictions that do keep accurate records of that, but it needs to be standardized across the board, where we have a database management system where we collect certain information, not any information that's going to pinpoint somebody, but basic information that so we know what demographics we're dealing with, what financial communities, what the communities are looking at, what the background of the adolescent truant violator is. The other thing is, speaking of truancy, I would really like to see us address not only absenteeism and truism, but also the other aspect is bullying. I was in Reno today, and at Save Mart and Walmart, they had people out front soliciting donations for an anti-bullying and a suicide prevention program in the state of Nevada. In California, Marin County has one of the highest teen rate suicides. And we are working closely with Dr. Michael Pritchard, who's a renowned community advocate for youth, and he speaks across the country in I'll say a comical way. He and Robin Williams were great friends, and he is the voiceover for Jabba the Hutt and the Miwoks in Star Wars. Great guy. And I look forward to doing more with him.
Yes, it sounds like you have a clear understanding of both the high-level needs, the school to prison pipeline, restorative transformative justice, but also a local and personal perspective on juvenile justice. And I'd like to end our board spotlight series here, and thank you very much for participating in this interview here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.